The famous play King John by William Shakespeare. The story begins at a time when England is restless and uncertain because King John, who sits on the throne, is not entirely secure. His claim to the crown is questioned by many people, and even though he wears the crown, it never quite feels steady on his head. John has taken the throne after his older brother, King Richard the Lionheart, died. But many believe the rightful heir is actually Richard's young nephew, Arthur. Arthur's claim threatens John, and this tension forms the heart of the whole play. John's mother, Queen Eleanor, tries to reassure him. She supports him with all her strength because she wants her son to remain king. But even she feels the pressure from the outside world. That pressure grows stronger when France becomes involved. The French king, Philip, openly declares that Arthur should be king. France demands that John step aside, give up the English crown, and allow Arthur to rule. Naturally, John refuses. He insists the crown is his by right, and that Arthur is too young to rule. This disagreement lights the spark of war between England and France. While preparations for war begin, a small side story unfolds that adds humor and humanity to the larger conflict. Two brothers, Philip and Robert Falconbridge, bring a dispute before King John. They argue over land and inheritance. Robert claims to be the legitimate son of their father, while Philip openly admits that people often suspect he is not the true son at all. When questioned, Philip eventually admits he believes his real father was Richard the Lionheart, the famous king whose courage and reputation lived long after his death. Queen Eleanor immediately notices Philip's bold nature and sees in him the same fire Richard had. Delighted, she adopts Philip into the royal family, making him a knight and calling him Sir Richard, though throughout the story he is commonly known as the bastard. He becomes one of the most honest, fearless, and outspoken characters in the entire play, providing a voice of clarity in a world full of politics and deception. John then marches with his army to France, ready for battle. France has its own allies, including Austria, who also supports Arthur's claim. Both sides arrive at Angiers, an important city that neither country can take without the other. But the people of Angiers refuse to declare who the rightful king is. They say they will only open their gates to the side that can clearly prove their ruler's legitimacy. This refusal frustrates both armies. The bastard, always bold and slightly mischievous, suggests that the two armies unite for a moment, destroy the city together, and then return to fighting each other afterward. Though the idea is almost ridiculous, both sides are frustrated enough to consider it. Before things get out of hand, a far more peaceful solution is proposed: a political marriage. The French king's son Louis will marry Blanche, King John's niece. This arrangement would unite England and France through family ties. Everyone agrees to it, and for a brief moment it seems the war will be avoided. The marriage takes place, and John and the French king shake hands, pretending that old arguments are now forgotten. But peace does not last. A new problem arrives in the form of Cardinal Pandulph, a powerful representative of the Pope. The cardinal tells King John that he must obey the Pope or face punishment. John refuses, saying England will not bow to the Pope's demands. The cardinal immediately turns to France and insists that the French king break the peace and attack England again. King Philip is torn because he just sealed a peace agreement through his son's marriage. But the cardinal pressures him until he reluctantly prepares for battle once again. The war resumes, and this time England wins. France is defeated, and young Prince Arthur falls into the hands of King John. This is a dangerous moment, because Arthur's very existence threatens John's security on the throne. As long as Arthur is alive, people will say the crown belongs to him. John becomes increasingly anxious. His mother advises him to remain calm, but his fear grows stronger every hour. Soon he makes a dark and terrible decision. He doesn't want to say the words openly, but through hints and suggestions he tells his loyal servant, Hubert, that Arthur must be dealt with, meaning killed. Hubert understands exactly what John wants, even though the king pretends to speak in riddles to protect himself from guilt later. Hubert takes Arthur to a room and prepares hot irons to blind him, a symbolic way of removing his claim forever. Arthur sees the irons and cries out with heartbreaking fear and innocence. His pleading touches Hubert. The boy's tears soften Hubert's heart so deeply that he cannot bring himself to harm him. He promises Arthur to protect him and secretly hides him instead of killing him. Meanwhile, a terrible rumor spreads across England. People say Arthur has been murdered. By order of King John, the nobles of England begin to turn against their king. They feel that killing a child is unforgivable. Even though they do not yet know Arthur is still alive, the rumor alone is enough to make them furious. They gather together and prepare to abandon the king. John tries to calm them, but everything he says sounds suspicious. He looks guilty even when he tries to sound innocent. Soon the nobles decide to leave him and join the French side, but tragedy strikes without any command from the king. Arthur becomes desperate to escape the place where Hubert has hidden him. He climbs over a high wall in an attempt to run to freedom, but tragically he slips and falls to his death. When the body is found, everyone believes that King John arranged this terrible act. Even Hubert is accused until he explains he spared the boy, though he cannot explain the unfortunate accident. Hubert rushes to John with the news of Arthur's death. John is shocked and horrified. He realizes that even though he did not order the boy's death directly, he is responsible for creating the situation, and now the outcome is even worse than he feared. Arthur is dead, and the entire country believes he was murdered under orders from the king. John's guilt becomes the heaviest burden he has ever carried. England falls into chaos. The nobles join the French forces. John's kingdom shrinks. The distrust grows like a spreading fire. John desperately tries to repair the damage, to explain himself, to undo the political harm, but nothing works. He has lost nearly all loyalty. The bastard, however, stays loyal. He becomes the king's strongest support, urging the remaining English forces to stay loyal to their homeland and resist foreign control. As England prepares for another great battle, fate suddenly turns against France. A massive storm destroys most of the French ships at sea. Many soldiers drown, and their invasion force becomes weak and disorganized. The English nobles who had joined France begin to reconsider their choice. They see that France is now unlikely to win, and they worry they will be seen as traitors. Slowly, step by step, they move back toward England's side, ready to make peace once again. But at this moment, when the storm has weakened the enemy, and when the nobles are ready to return, tragedy arrives for King John himself. John is poisoned by a monk who cannot forgive the king for resisting the Pope. The poison acts slowly and painfully. John becomes weak and feverish. He is taken to a lonely monastery, terrified and exhausted, struggling to stay alive. The bastard returns from the battlefield to give him what should have been good news. The French fleet is destroyed, the nobles have returned, and England can finally be united again. But the news comes too late. John is collapsing. His strength fails him. He feels regret for his choices, especially the part he played in Arthur's doom. He speaks tenderly to his young son, Prince Henry, who stands by him helplessly. Surrounded by a few loyal followers, King John dies, defeated not by an enemy, but by his own fears, his political mistakes, and the heavy responsibilities he carried. After John's death, young Prince Henry becomes King Henry III. The nobles gather around him and promise loyalty. They hope for a new beginning for England, free from the mistakes and fears that haunted John's reign. The bastard, still loyal and steady, gives a final message that England must stand united if it hopes to survive. And with that note of hope, the long and troubled story of King John comes to its end.